People love to say that children are shaped by their parents, but what is more terrifying is seeing two children grow in the same exact way, under the same exact roof, with the same exact parents, but still grow out to have two completely different curses. Because whilst one child learns to disappear, the other one becomes trapped under a mask that she can no longer remove. And that is exactly what fascinated me about The Children by Melissa Albert. Because beneath the gothic atmosphere, the literary mystery, and the family drama, this book presents something far more unsettling. What happens when every adult in your life is hungry? Hungry for admiration, hungry for success, and hungry to become immortal through art and legacy. And with this hunger and this desperation to be seen, they consume even the very children that they were supposed to protect. Hello, my gorgeous viewers and readers. Welcome back and welcome if you're new. I hope your weekend was filled with dark, rainy afternoons, muddy walks around the forest, and the slightly unsettling feeling that the house you grew up with suddenly is keeping secrets from you. Today, we're talking about The Children by Melissa Albert, a newly published book that has been very kindly sent to me by Bloomsbury or the Bloomsbury team. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This means the world to me, and I was very excited to get my hands on this book. Even before this was sent to me, I was waiting for the day it got released, which was, I think it has been like 4 days now. So yeah, I was very excited to read this book, and when I got the opportunity to read the review copy, obviously I said yes, because I was just so hungry for this book, pun intended. And before we begin, as always, I want to remind you guys that just because a book has been sent to me and I haven't paid or I haven't gotten the book with my own money, the opinion of said book will not change. And I will be 100% honest with you guys. If I love a book, I will tell you. If I hate it, I will tell you as well. And if there's a book that makes me just like stay awake at 2 a.m. in the morning because I can't stop thinking about this book that I have been obsessed with, I will tell you as well. So yeah, even if this book has been sent to me, everything that I say in this review will be 100% truthful and honest. And to be completely honest, guys, this book has absolutely consumed me, because when I first started reading it, I thought of it as a gothic literary mystery. Think of an old gothic farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in Vermont where Jesus lost his sandal, a famous family, and a dead mother whose legacy is actually haunting her children. Like, these cannot be more gothic. But the more I read, I realized that this is no normal gothic story. This is actually horror. This book is genuinely horrific, but not in the traditional way, because there are no monsters lurking in the woods or demons that haunt you through the mirror. Actually, the monsters that exist in the book are painfully human. They are artists, they are writers, they are even your own parents. But all these others are so haunted and so consumed by their own desires and their own hunger that they fail to notice all the damage that they are inflicting in their children. And these wounds that these children have will be the true haunting of the book. Just as a quick summary, The Children follows the life of two siblings, Guinevere and Ennis Sharp, whose entire childhood has been anything but average, because their mother, Edith Sharp, was not just their mother, but she was a very famous and incredibly beloved children's author, whose books actually changed their family into a cultural phenomenon. All readers adored the stories that she wrote about her children or her farmhouse that was presented as this fantasy land, but most importantly about the idyllic lifestyle that the whole family was living. Not only the children, but also Edith and Llewellyn, who is the husband. But as always, the problem here is that what she was writing was never the whole truth. The first thing that we know about Gwyn and Ennis is the fact that their parents have a massive age gap and a huge power imbalance between them. So when we first meet them, Llewellyn is around his 30s and he is at the top of his career as a theatre actor. He's been in West End and in Broadway. And Edith, on the other side, she is the daughter of a theatre director, the theatre play that Llewellyn is acting in. So there is already a weird drama mix-up over there. So when they first get together, obviously she is a minor and Llewellyn is already married to someone else. So when it shows up, or like it appears that they are together and Edith is pregnant, the director, or Edith's father, actually kicks them out from the play and just shoos them away and blacklists Llewellyn. So therefore he cannot work as a theatre actor anymore. And after traveling around for quite a while, they decide to live in this farmhouse in Vermont that is owned by Edith's parents. Like, they decide to go in there because it is a really quiet place that no one knows about, and it's also pretty abandoned. So they can just live there for the time being until they find a regular steady place to live. But the moment they get into the house, something shifts amongst them. So the children love the house. They absolutely love it because it is a massive house. So it means a massive adventure to discover, but also it's filled with woods and forests. So they can just live the changeling life that they want. And Edith absolutely loves the house as well, especially one of the rooms, which they call the writing room, which is the only room that the children don't like for whatever reason. And the only person that doesn't like the farmhouse at all is Llewellyn. He absolutely despises it and he feels that this house is haunted. Even though the children absolutely despise the writing room, Edith absolutely loves it and secludes herself there for months. She barely leaves the room. She doesn't let anyone come into the house or come into the room because that is her secluded area. Until one day she leaves the room with something in her hand, which is a manuscript. She finally managed to do what she had always wanted to do, which is write a book. Not only this book gets published, but immediately becomes bestseller. She suddenly is the breadwinner of the household, whereas Llewellyn, who has been jobless for quite a while, he takes care of the children. And at first it seems that everything is working out, especially with Edith. She becomes even more secluded and she's only living to write, which is something that feels fair because she is the breadwinner. But the more time goes by, the more we see how secluded she is, how unhappy Llewellyn is, but also how many people are suddenly joining the farmhouse and getting into this house. Not only the mother's editor or the mother's boss, but also other artists and writers and people that the children do not know. And as the novel moves between the past and the present, the more we begin to understand the complicated dynamics that shape the family, but most importantly, that shaped the children's adult life. So we see how haunted both Gwyn and Ennis are by the ghosts of their parents, not only because the parents pass away way too soon, but also at the same time because of all the legacy that these two parents have, not only as both artists, but also for their mother as author. What fascinated me most about this book was not the dark mystery or the horror that appears, but it was the hunger of all the characters, because every tragedy that we see in this book can be sourced to this hunger. The hunger to be loved, to be admired, to be desired, or to even have the immortality of a legacy, even at the cost of your own children. Overall, I think this book is about three main things. First off, the narcissistic desire of an artistic genius, but also the consequences of living under an artistic genius's wing. And finally, the consequences of living your life as someone else's famous idea. Starting with the narcissism in the artistic industry, this is something that was very apparent to me when I first started reading the book, because it is also very apparent in our real life. This is something that I see over and over again in the artistic industry. In every creative space, there is always someone who is a grandiose narcissist or even an insecure narcissist. But I think it's because the industry really attracts this sort of personality, which is the narcissist that doesn't necessarily feel like they are better than everyone else or that their perspective is greater or more creative, which, don't get me wrong, it happens sometimes. But I feel the artistic industry attracts this kind of people or narcissists in general because the artistic world is based on admiration. It's based on recognition and the desire to have people view you as a god, as someone who is a source of inspiration. And this is exactly how I see both Llewellyn and Edith. They struck me as narcissists, especially Llewellyn, because when I first saw him or when I first met him, I immediately knew that he was a narcissist because he loves the attention, the attention of the theater, right? Which is natural. Obviously, if you are an actor, you will thrive in that environment. But the fact that he went for Edith, who first of all is a minor, but also at the same time who is very well connected within the theater industry because her father is a director, that made me realize from the get-go that he had ulterior motives, which at the end of the day didn't go as planned. But yeah, I knew from the get-go that he was obsessed with her, not only because she adored him, but also at the same time because that would give him the opportunity to climb even faster and climb even higher in his acting career. Meanwhile, Edith develops her own version of narcissism, not through performance like Llewellyn, but through myth making. She makes herself a myth, a legend, a fairy tale. And that is why people adore her so much. And that is why there are so many people who want to go into the farmhouse because they want to meet her. They want to see her. They want to experience the myth and the legend that she is. And that is why Llewellyn gets sick, but also that is why he becomes so rejectful for her because suddenly he is not the one to be adored. She is. She loves this validation and adoration so much that she starts falling in love with this mysticism, with this legend, so much so that she starts loving the big children more than her real children, even if that hurts her children, because she doesn't care about them. She only sees them as characters, as symbols, as ideas, as the things that will give her the validation and adoration that she so clearly needs. And this is exactly why I am saying that this book also presents the consequences of living under an artistic genius's wing, because that is exactly what we see with Gwyn and Ennis. They both, like, their parents are both geniuses. Llewellyn is a great theater actor and Edith is a great author. So not only they expect their children to be geniuses as well in some sort of way, but also they have the artistic narcissism that I was talking about, right? So obviously they parent in a different way because of their own need for validation. So Llewellyn is presented as the exciting parent, as the one who loves being with their children and who just loves to entertain them. And this is something that we see multiple times in the book. Whereas Edith, she has no desire to be validated by their children or by her children, because at the end of the day, she has her own. She has the big children. So it feels as if both parents are like they want to parent in some way and they want to be parents, but they don't want to act as parents. They just want to get the narcissistic validation that they so clearly desire. To me, Llewellyn acts as a permissive, almost laissez-faire kind of parent, whereas Edith is just absolutely absent. She cannot give a rat's ass about her own children. So the more the children grow up, the more we see how this parenting exacerbates, and then suddenly Llewellyn becomes more like an absent father rather than permissive, because as the children grow up, they become independent. They don't care about the father that much, so therefore he goes or he looks for validation somewhere else, onto his models, onto the other artists, whatever. They both parents do not care about the children, and it is very obvious how this affects them into teenagehood and adulthood, because all the stories and everything that Queen is telling us is that she was abandoned. She felt abandoned from the get-go, apart from Ennis. Obviously, she always felt like she had Ennis by her side, but she always felt as if she had been abandoned and she was just living by herself. That is why she becomes hyper avoidant, hyper vigilant, hyper independent. She is just living her life, and she just lives a life of chaos. But the tragedy doesn't stop there, because not only both Gwyn and Ennis have been neglected and abused by their parents and also their parents' friends, but at the same time, they are not who they think they are. They are not both Gwyn and Ennis, because their identities as individuals have been harvested, they have been used, and they have been stolen. So they cannot be themselves. They can only be what the idea that people have of them because of the books that their mom wrote. For example, the version of Gwyn that exists in the books is not the real Gwyn. She is nothing but a character or a symbol or just something, an idea that exists in this fantasy. But actually, when we look in reality, people do not care for the real Gwyn. They care about the book Gwyn, the idea that is perfect, that is Edith's daughter, Edith's creation. They don't care about the real Gwyn. That's what makes Gwyn become isolated and become lonely, because no one, like, she has the feeling that no one but her and Ennis care about the real Gwyn. They only care about the version that their mother created. Which is exactly what happens with many people who become famous as children. Suddenly, they are not themselves, they are not individuals, but they are a collective of ideas that other people have of them. And obviously, this could mess anyone up as an adult, but if you are a child, that affects you even more, because when you're a child or when you grow into adulthood, what you are trying to do is trying to find your own identity, trying to understand who you are, what you like, what you dislike, or what are the things that make you, your own personality. But if you grow up in the eye of the public, if you grow up as someone's idea, suddenly you are not only yourself, but you are the idea that other people have of you. So suddenly you start performing for others. You perform the idea that others want you to believe that you are, right? So, for example, this is exactly what happened with people like Daniel Radcliffe or Emma Watson and stuff like that, and people like that. A lot of people have this idea that they are the Harry Potter characters, right? That that Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. And no matter how much, like, what he does, no matter how many films he acts in, or no matter how many series he does, or how many Oscars he wins, he will always be Harry Potter. This is the idea, this is the identity that he has. And this is exactly what we see happening with Gwen. She spends her life performing, not only for her mother or for her mother's legacy and her readers, or even for her own grandmother or for her fiance. We see her performing for herself. She is so obsessed with becoming Big Gwen that she doesn't understand that she is not Big Gwen. And then we see her wondering who she is, what does she want, why is she performing, and that makes her lose her identity completely. And here is where all three topics collide, and it's in the loss of the child's identity. So first off, if you have a narcissistic parent, what they will do is not only neglect you or abuse you, but they will chew you up. They will just consume you. They will take everything from you until you have nothing left to give, especially if they are emotionally immature. If they are, then what they will do is they will consume you and leave you with nothing, and then fill you up with whatever they need. So let's say if they want a clown, out of you, they will make you a jester. They will validate you and they will create your identity as a clown. Or many emotionally immature parents, especially if they are narcissistic, what they do is parentify you. They make you the parent. And last but not least, if the person or the parent is an artist, what they will usually do is create a myth or create some mysticism around you, because artists tend to be really whimsical and they love to create magic around them. So what they will do is create a myth. They create a muse out of you until you don't behave the way the muse is supposed to act, and then suddenly there is an issue. Suddenly you are not the person that they thought you were. You are not the identity that they put onto you. So imagine if you're Gwen and Ennis and the parents that you love so much and that you are so desperately wanting them to love you back, not only they do not care about you, they absolutely neglect you, but also at the same time they have took your image, they have took who you are, and they have built a whole entire myth around you, and suddenly you are not yourself, but you are nothing but the shadow of this idea that feels better than you. So suddenly you are two others who have spent the whole entire life just managing other people's hungers. So their parents' hunger for admiration and immortality through legacy, but also writers and authors' hunger for admiration and respect of your mother, and also readers who have the hunger to have your life. These would be my 13th reason. Eventually, this kind of childhood, this kind of lack of identity creates monsters, but not monsters who are evil. They are not evil people. They are people who are wounded, who are desperate for the love that they did not receive, for the desire and the hunger to be understood, to be identified for what they are and not for the myth that is around them. At the end of the day, both Gwyn and Ennis are two others who are obsessed with living a different childhood, because that's the thing. Childhood never stays in childhood. It never stays in the past. It always follows us, it haunts us, and it shows us the wounds that we refuse to see. And this is why The Children by Melissa Albert is such an incredible book, because it shows us a very cruel reality. And it's that no matter how much we try to hide our ugliness, to try to hide the things that makes us feel horrendous and monstrous, they will always be there. Before I finish, I want to thank Bloomsbury again for giving me the opportunity to read The Children by Melissa Albert. This is genuinely such a fun and exciting read. I haven't been this excited to read a book in so long, and it has been such an honor for me to read this book. Thank you again so much. And honestly, to Melissa Albert, this is absolutely fantastic. Please keep writing, because this is just phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for staying until the end. If you liked the video, please make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel, and also you can follow me on my social media. I post there every day, and I will definitely post more content about The Children. So yeah, please make sure that you follow me there. And before you go, I want to ask you guys a question, and the question is, if you haven't, will you give a chance to The Children by Melissa Albert? I really hope you do. And if you have read the book already, please make sure that you put down in the comments what you thought of it. I really want to discuss this book with someone else. I am so excited. But yeah, that's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will see you next week. Bye, guys.